I'm finally back in the garden, so let's see what we can harvest today. I'm starting off with this tomato tomato. This plant isn't as large as my volunteer tomato, but it's still very productive. I'm only going to harvest the really ripe ones. So I actually went through and pruned this plant a few days ago because it was going wilder than it looks right now. And it's looking a lot better already. It's getting full sun almost every single day and it still looks really happy. I think what really made a huge difference in the look of all these plants is setting up drip irrigation. I remember how badly I wanted to harvest peppers from the garden, and now I have so many I don't know what to do with them. So recently, the only thing I've been doing with all the pepper harvests I get is I just give them away, because I cook with peppers every single day and I still cannot use them fast enough. And I didn't realize the plants would be this productive. And I think the reason that they are so productive is because they're overwintered, so they're more mature plants. Last year, these same plants were very wilted around this time of the year because it was just too hot for them. They were recently planted, and this year, because they've been through a whole summer already with no type of sun protection, I don't really see them get wilted even during the hottest parts of the day. It also does help though that they're in a nice little microclimate. And this pepper plant in particular got hit with hornworms last year. At one point, I cut it back significantly because all the top branches were just completely bare. At that point in time, I didn't really know what hornworms were. So even though I saw the poop for several weeks, I didn't notice the worms themselves until I came out here and most of the plant was gone. And that's when I started finding them everywhere. And so that's one of the first things I look for now is the ground. If I see any poop anywhere, I check the plant, and more often than not, there's gonna be a hornworm somewhere. In one of my last harvest videos, I mentioned that hornworm season had started up in my garden. I was starting to find them all over my grapevines, and in a matter of days, all the hornworms were gone. And I think the reason for that is the birds. At first, I didn't really want birds in the garden because I didn't want them eating all my produce, and they do get some of the tomatoes here and there, or some of the peppers that are really bright red, but usually they tend to leave the peppers alone, I think just because they're so spicy. They don't really like that. But the tomatoes they usually get too. But I don't really mind them anymore because I started finding half-dead hornworms everywhere. I think the birds started pecking at them, and there were birds in the garden every single day. Every time I would look out the window, there was just birds perched everywhere. And every time I would come outside, they'd fly away, but moments later they'd come back. So I feel like they were feasting on hornworms the whole time we were sick, which helped me out a lot because when I came out here, my plants weren't all gone. Every time I feel like I've got all of them, I find some more peppers back here. And look how big these are too. Last year they were never this large. Next up are these fairy tale eggplants, which I think are starting to become a little bit overripe because the color is a lot more pale and they're larger than I usually let them get. So I'm gonna bring them indoors now so we can cook them up fast. Oh yeah, you guys, okay. Let me show you these. Can you guys see that? Definitely starting to get overripe because the color is changing from that light purple to more of a dark yellowish green. And this one's really hard now. This is not at all what I want. This would be good for seeds, but I think what I'm gonna try to do this year is propagate these eggplants from cuttings because I saved some seeds from this plant last year and none of them germinated. So I think cuttings will probably be a better way to go. Oh, I see another one down here. Also very yellow, as you can see there. This variety is one of my favorites because it's perfect for containers. And I didn't start this one from seed. I actually bought the start from the Arizona worm farm for $1. And it's one of the best purchases I've ever made. Oh, and there's another one back here. We've got another pepper plant in this little planter. And I think these are very adorable. These are also very spicy. And I want to bring them indoors before they start turning out like this guy. Oh, when I lift it up, you can see a lot of red peppers down here. So I think I'm just going to start pulling those. Oh, this one's pretty large actually. This is my squash bed. I have several varieties here, and the reason I have them in this location is because this bed gets a little bit more shade compared to the rest of the garden, and I want to make sure I plant them strategically because I'm trying not to set up shade cloth this year. And look at the fruit on this guy. It's pretty big. Let's see if I can get it all. That's awesome. Squash is one of my favorite vegetables. I'm still trying to get my family to love to eat them. They like them in certain dishes, but for the most part, they tend to leave them on their plate. But me, on the other hand, I love this vegetable. I grew up eating it all the time, and now I'm trying to... Ah, there's a spider! Oh no! Even though it's later in the day, it's still getting hotter, but this pepper plant is just loaded. The entire bottom has red peppers everywhere, so I need to bring them all indoors, and then the tops are starting to turn as well. They're not getting very large. They look like Christmas lights to me, as you can see right there. But this plant is very productive. The peppers are very spicy and flavorful, and my family better get ready because I'm bringing bags of peppers over later this week. I think that's a good thing about growing peppers is the birds don't seem to like... Hold on. I need my gloves. The insects seem to really like this plant. I know I can dehydrate peppers, and I'm probably going to do that. I thought about making salsas or like hot sauces, but my husband doesn't really like them, and I myself really like fresh salsas, so that's why I haven't made any sort of hot sauce with them, because I know that it would probably go to waste, and I want to make sure I use the harvest to make things that we'll actually eat throughout the year. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do with them. Right now, the best thing I can do is just give them away. I told my sister and my family just not to buy peppers anywhere. Just come to me if you guys need some. And I'm just trying to get rid of them that way because they taste really good. Really, really good. And it's something that we don't have to buy at the grocery store. The only thing is that I've got a little bit too much of them. I think I've reached a point where I've accepted that I have too many peppers in the garden. So now every time I go on seed websites to order more seeds, I don't even look at the pepper section anymore, which is one of the first sections I used to gravitate towards. But now I know I just have so many that I don't even want any more pepper seeds. I mean, I might change my mind later on in the year, but right now I'm overwhelmed with the amount of peppers I get every single harvest. And the thing is, the more mature the plants are, the more peppers they'll produce. The smaller plants tend to produce a lot less until they become established. One thing that I focused on doing is not starting more than one variety of each pepper unless I really, really like it. So I think with sweet peppers, I'll start several varieties of each, but when it comes to spicy peppers, one is more than enough. Because I think the sweet peppers are a lot more versatile and I can add them to many dishes versus the hot ones. I can't add several peppers to one dish because then we wouldn't be able to finish it. I think I'm gonna pause there. I'm gonna have my kids come in and help me later on so they can fill their harvest basket too. This is a Space Master cucumber, and I don't know if this is supposed to get larger, but I'm gonna harvest it now. This is my first cucumber. Normally I tend to grow Armenian cucumbers, and I have a few that are starting to produce here in the garden, but varieties like these don't seem to perform the best for me. Now that I have drip set up, hopefully that'll change, but ever since I started gardening, I have not been able to get very good harvests of regular cucumbers. I've got another tomato tomato right next to my artichoke. Look how pretty that looks. And I can see that the birds started getting to some of these. They've got some little holes in them. So I'm just gonna toss them back into the garden bed. Maybe we'll get some really robust volunteers. But look at the color on these. When they get really ripe, these tomatoes are extremely sweet. Oh, here's another one that the birds got to. There's some really nice tomato clusters over here as well. And a few of them have started splitting, so I need to bring them indoors now. Oh, you guys, what makes me really happy is I still have one. Oh no, I think it has blossom end rot. Okay, well I had one Dr. Witchy's tomato left. I think what I might do is cut some of these tomato plants back and see if I can keep them alive until the fall so that they can start producing a lot better at that point. It may be kind of hard to see, but I see one gorgeous tomato down here. Oh, it did split, but it still looks really pretty. Down here are a couple more San Marzanos. Look how pretty these are. I love this variety. I had some in 3-gallon containers that didn't do as well. This one is in a planter, which is still pretty small, and these haven't had any blossom end rot, or at least most of the tomatoes haven't, which makes me very happy. And this is what I've been waiting for. So these are some Oregon spring tomatoes, and some of them are starting to crack, as you can see there. They're definitely blushing. They could use a few more days, but I'm scared that the birds will get to them before I do. So I'm gonna bring the whole cluster indoors and let them finish ripening on the counter. Oh, I thought I could get it all at once. And if I move this aside, there's a couple more down here. Next to that, I have a couple of Brad's Atomic grapes. I had 2 of these plants, but the last one didn't make it. When we got sick, I wasn't able to keep up with the watering and it fizzled out. This one is still producing. It doesn't look the happiest right now. It's also getting full sun all day, every day. So hopefully I can keep it alive until the fall. But I'm also going to start some more seeds to make sure I have this variety because I really like it. I've harvested them at different points, and I think at this stage they taste the best. They're a little bit more reddish orange versus having more green to them. And the ones I've been harvesting lately have been extremely sweet. I've tried my best to keep up with these tomato tomatoes, and there's several that are ripe right now, but not as many as there were last week, which is awesome because my fridge is just full of them. Oh, I do see some pecks in some of them though. So any that I see pecks from the birds, I just drop them back into the garden beds because I don't want to bring those indoors. And some of these clusters have some ripe ones and some that are still green. So I'm leaving the green ones behind. That way they can ripen on the plant. I could bring them indoors and allow them to ripen on the counter, but I feel like they just taste the best when they're on the plant. Let's see if we can get these from up here. Oh. I might have my husband come finish picking some of these for me. So here's what I harvested right now, and here's what I harvested today from my city cottage garden.